Good evening, everyone. Beruchim haba'im b'shem Hashem. As usual, it is always great to welcome everyone to the greatest time we have to spend time learning the parasha, learning the Torah, learning Parashat HaShavua that we are going to read Be'ezrat Hashem this Shabbat. But before we start tonight, I would like to do something that I usually don't do. Usually I don't get involved in, at least not in public, with what the world called current events, things that are happening around us in the Jewish world, in Eretz Israel and outside of Eretz Israel. But for some reason, I want to admit that I have some personal agenda to share before we begin Parashat Bo today. I'm sure you know, those of you who are addicted to the news of Eretz Israel, I'm sure you know that today there was a very special event whereas the Prime Minister of Israel, Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu, or Binyamin Netanyahu, we are Israelis, we can call him Binyamin Netanyahu, have had the heroic act to bring back home this young lady who was in prison in Russia. And due to intensive connections and work alongside with the president of Russia, President Putin, they were able to bring back from prison, bring back this young lady back home, back to her family, back to Israel. And I want to be very, very clear on that. I think that it should be very clear that I'm not speaking right now about the reason why she was in prison, because I'm not the attorney and I don't know anything about the case, and I'm not promoting any kind of substance used that was a discussion in this case. That's not my point at all. Nor that I am ever going to discuss politics. I'm not discussing politics. I'm not involved in politics. I will never be involved in politics. But I want you to know that today, something really hit my core. When I was watching the news in Israel and see the excitement, the joy of the vast majority of Israelis when this young lady came back home, I'd had a chance to read a lot of comments in many different sources in the news. A lot of comments about why the Prime Minister brought her. This is a bad act. Why do we have to give him kavod and honor for that? And all kind of political messages that a lot of people are in such a negative way going against him and against what he did. And I want you to know, as I said before, above and beyond politics, above and beyond any conversation of which party you are for, you're voting for, that's not really the point, not at all. I'm asking myself, Ribbono shel Olam, my dear brothers and sisters, what has happened to us? What has happened to us that we lost compassion, love and care? And what happened to us that we lost the entire concept of love, of unity, with those kind of conversations, with those kind of comments? There is this young lady who was in jail in Russia. And Baruch Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu helped her for whatever circumstances to come back home. And yes, we should celebrate it. Do we have unsolved other issues in Israel? We do. But we should learn to love, to have compassion. I don't know anybody who made any kind of a negative comment about this. That if Has v'Shalom, if God forbid, we switch the names to our own daughters being in jail in Russia, I don't believe we would not turn any stone on the world to make sure that she's coming back home safe and happy and healthy. And I think, Rabbotai, what's going on today in our world, especially in Eretz Israel, is something that has to shift. It has to shift regardless of your political view, regardless of the party you belong to. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter at all. I'm talking about, Rabbotai, it is about the moment, it is about the time for us to wake up and increase love, increase connection, increase compassion. It is okay to say a good word for the Prime Minister of Israel. It is okay, it's not prohibited. It is okay, it is permitted to compliment the Prime Minister of Israel. It is permitted to compliment the President of Russia, Mr. Putin, for making that possible, and I don't care what the price is. Someone, Rabbotai, is doing things for us. Someone is dedicating day and night for the security, for the state, for the leadership of Israel. Say a good word. Say a good word to each other. Our daughter came back home. Daughter, yes, I don't care what happened. She came back home. I do feel, and I'm telling you, I'm speaking from a bleeding heart, painful heart. When I see so much negativity in conversations, so much what we call in Hebrew, choser firgun. I think we know, and I'm sorry to say it, but I'll say it, and I'm really speaking from enormous pain in my heart. I think we all know, and you know it too, we all know it here, that in Am Yisrael, when Has v'Shalom, the first missile hits Tel Aviv, or any other place in Israel, we will get united. We will be united. We will learn to speak to each other. We will learn to hug each other. We will learn to love each other. We do know how to love each other. I think it is what we call tzava sha'ar, but I want to call upon any human being who hears this conversation right now. And I think this is one of the most important callings of our time. It is time for us to increase love. It is our time and moment to kill, destroy, and bury judgmental. Whether people do more, people do less, people are like you, people are not like you, people are different. It's not our time to judge. It's not our position to judge anybody. It is time, Rabbotai, and I want to call upon anyone who hears that to please contribute in your own arba amot, in your own space at home, in your family, in the community, and try to carry conversations of love. Try to carry conversations of a heartfelt connection. Try to carry conversations of unity, of connection, of positivity. Let's try, and it's not too difficult to find positives in people's heart and in people's life. See positive, speak positive, act positive. Rabbotai, I want to say it as clear as possible. I think this is the tzava sha'ah, this is the command of our time to increase this love and unity. Because we all know that we have it in our core, we have it in our DNA. But due to circumstances and all kinds of inspirations, negative inspirations and influences, we lost track on a simple thing that's called love. It's called unity. It's called connection. So before we begin the parasha, I would like to increase the awareness and the mindfulness of this need that we have now, especially in the parasha that we are going to discuss, Parashat Bo, which represents basically the end of the slavery of Am Yisrael, and in creating our path to the Geula Shelema, to the Geula, to the redemption. And there is absolutely no chance for us to be redeemed whatsoever unless we learn that the only power we have is Ve'yasu kulam aguda ahat. Ve'yasu kulam aguda ahat means I can dislike what you say, I can dislike what you do. I will never have the privilege to dislike you as a person. And Be'ezrat Hashem, I hope and I pray that we will have the chance to shift the conversations into love and unity. I cannot stress it enough, Rabbotai. This is what we need to have in our time. It's what we have to have all the time, but especially in our time. Kill the poison, kill the differences between us, kill judgmental, and really start to increase love, bond, and connection. And thank you for listening to that, because this is what I believe is the most important thing we are experiencing in our times. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh b'dvaro. And now we will have to shift. If you are at home, you can get up and dance a little bit and jump up and down, because we need to shift right now to the conversation of Parashat Bo. Parashat Bo, Rabbotai, is the parasha that we know that after HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving Paro the educational process, the Sidrat Chinuch that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving to Paro, after the 7 makot of Parashat Va'era and the 3 makot Arbe, Choshech, Makat Bechorot of Parashat Bo, we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to end this entire educational process. And after Paro paid an enormous tuition for this education system, now it is time for Am Yisrael to get out of Egypt, out of the shi'bud of Mitzrayim, out of the slavery of Va'avadum ve'inu otam 400 shana. It is time to get out. That's Parashat Bo. After Arbe, Choshech, and Makat Bechorot, mentioned in the parasha, Am Yisrael are going Mishi'bud leGeula. May Borei Olam will give us the zechut to also get out of the shi'bud that we are living in into the Geula Shlema Be'ezrat Hashem. But moreover, Rabbotai, I'm going to be Moroccan in the SHIUR of today. I'm going to raise some questions that some of you might feel, you too, join me. Some of you might call the source, the origin, what generates the question is me being a Moroccan person. But I'm proud of it. And I'm going to mention the questions in that attitude, in that mode of a Moroccan attitude to life. And obviously, by the way, you know, when I speak Moroccan attitude, I don't generalize anything. I'm using it for the fun of it. But this is just to be going to be the introduction to the way I will present the challenges that we have in Parashat Bo. Let's keep it simple. I think it would not be an exaggeration to say that what's happening in Parashat Bo, it's the best show in town. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that the entire negotiation between Paro and Moshe Rabbeinu was contained a lot of tense, fun, interesting. And we know that in between these conversations, there is a hidden, powerful agenda. And the conversation is not really about, are you letting Am Yisrael go out of Egypt? Are you letting my people go? Are you going to let Am Yisrael out? Or you keep them as slaves? Even though it might sound like this, but I think it's clear to us if we read the Torah in a very careful way, that we will clearly understand that what the topic on the table is by far deeper, broader, and much more profound than just, which I'm not underestimating, that just leaving Egypt, but there is obviously something much deeper going on. And if we have to sum it up in an easy way, it's clearly right to say that between Paro and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there is a very, very fundamental conversation. And the fundamental conversation is, who is God? Who runs the world? Who is Elohim? Who runs the world? Who is controlling everything in the world? Who is the CEO of this company called Universe? And if you pay attention throughout Parashiot Shemot, Vayera, Bo, we see very clearly that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mentioning over and over and over again, Vida'atem ki ani Hashem, le'ma'an saper shemi b'chol ha'aretz. There is an agenda to make a very clear statement. Paro, get off your imaginations, La La Land, get off your imaginary world. There is God. And there is God that runs the world. There is God that created the world. And there is the God that, Baruch Hashem, is running the universe. So if Paro had ever any kind of a doubt or disagreement with that, Borei Olam comes to Paro and say, Vida'atem ki ani Hashem. So that is the agenda, right? Great. Now, Rabotai, if this is the agenda, and if the ultimate message to Paro has to say, Borei Olam runs the world, and there is like a power struggle now between Paro and Moshe Rabbeinu, who runs the world, Borei Olam or Paro, I have a very, very hard time reading the script of the negotiation between Moshe Rabbeinu and Borei Olam, and I am going to use a word throughout the entire parasha today, throughout the entire SHIUR today. I'm going to use the word lichora or lechaora, or in English, apparently. When I say I have a difficulty with the script, I have a difficulty with the text, I have difficulty with the negotiation style, I am talking about lichora, and I'm using the word challenge just to raise the question in the most clear way possible so we can comprehend the process of Am Yisrael leaving Egypt, living with the agenda that Borei Olam runs the world. And here is what I don't understand. The first question that I think should be on the table. We know that when Moshe Rabbeinu came to Paro, and he came to Paro to tell him, we served you here for many years. We are your slaves. We want to go, but we want to go for 3 days. Do you remember that? Here's what the Torah said, ויאמרו אלוהי העברים נקרא עלינו, נלכה נא דרך 3 ימים במדבר, ונזבחה להשם אלוקינו. Moshe Rabbeinu comes to Paro and placed a request. What was the request? The request was, we want to leave Egypt for 3 days because we have all kinds of services to perform for our God. So we need a vacation, we need a weekend out. We're not asking to leave Egypt. We're not asking to say goodbye to our slavery. We're not asking for you to redeem us, to let us go. We're asking for 3 days. That's all. This entire negotiation between Moshe Rabbeinu and Paro was for 3 days. And me, being Moroccan, writing this script, I want a script to sound like this. I want Moshe Rabbeinu to walk into Paro's palace and tell Paro, listen, little kid. Listen, little kid. We had enough of you. Khalasna rohi, enough. I'm glad you think you're God, but I have some news for you. There is a real God in this world. We served you for 210 years, and let me tell you that in a perfect English, enough is enough. I am not asking you for nothing. I'm not requesting anything. I want you to know that we are living. Do you know for how long? Forever. And you, Paro, better be quiet. This is how my Moroccan energy is speaking right now. And I want to go to Paro and say, your game is over. Your game is over, Mr. Paro. I know you think about yourself all kinds of superiority states. It's over. Your La La Land is gone. We're living. I'm not asking. I'm not requesting. Vidatem ki ani Hashem. We're here to tell you there is God. We're living for good. And by the way, we need some cash. We're living. Wouldn't that be much more powerful statement than we're going for 3 days? King Paro, could you please let us go for a weekend? We have some services to perform. Why not to go to Paro with power, with strength, with stability? To go to Paro and say, I don't know, I will say the words in Hebrew, Lech la'azazel. Lech la'azazel. You put us in slavery for 210 years. Enough! We're living. Wouldn't that style can represent Vidatem ki ani Hashem? This is, we have our own God. We have God, and God controls the world. And God decides what we do, what we don't do, not you. Goodbye, Charlie. We're out. Not for 3 days, for good. That's lichora, the first thing that has some challenge to resonate in our minds, in our hearts, as the proof, as making the statement, Vidatem ki ani Hashem. The second thing, the second question that I think we all should ask is, we know that part of the process, before Am Yisrael are actually leaving Egypt, before Am Yisrael are leaving Eretz Mitzrayim, Kadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu, Daber na beoznei ha'am. וישאלו איש מאת רעהו ואישה מאת רעותה, כלי כסף, כלי זהב ושמלות. Basically, HaKadosh Baruch Hu committed to fulfill his promise to Avraham Avinu, Bivrit ben Abetarim. And he told Avraham Avinu, ועבדום ועינו אותם 400 שנה, וגם את הגוי אשר יעבודו, סליחה, דן אנוכי, ואחרי כן יצאו ברכוש גדול, meaning to say, Kadosh Baruch Hu is telling Avraham Avinu, Am Yisrael are going to serve for 400 years in slavery, and in the end of it, the nation that will slave them will be punished. I will judge them as well, but don't worry. ואחרי כן יצאו ברכוש גדול. In the end, they will leave rich. They will have a lot of money. We'll get there in a second on the conversation Borei Olam had with Avraham Avinu in Brit Ben HaBetarim, in that vision. But beforehand, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised Avraham Avinu that Am Yisrael will leave Eretz Mitzrayim birchush gadol, they will leave Eretz Mitzrayim rich, wealthy. They will have millions and billions of dollars in their pockets. What was the method that HaKadosh Baruch Hu required Am Yisrael to do? How does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want Am Yisrael to have this money? It sounds in a very, very manipulative and tricky way. דבר נא באוזני העם וישאלו איש מאת רעהו, meaning to say, Am Yisrael should go to the Egyptians, knock on their doors, and say, hello, Muhammad, can I please borrow $10,000? Can I please borrow your jewelry? Can I please borrow this, borrow that? With the intention to never pay it back. With the intention to leave. I want to be Moroccan again. This is a Moroccan shiur today. I want to be Moroccan today again. If I write the script, lichora, if I write the script, I want to go to the Egyptians. I want the Jews to go to the Egyptians, knock on the door and say, Muhammad, افتح الباب. Open the door now. Muhammad, listen. Every penny you have in this house, in your wallet and in your safe, out now. I want it. Lama kacha. Why? Because I said so. Do it fast. We have served you for 210 years. You owe us a lot of money. Give me everything you have. Vida'atem ki ani Hashem. We're coming to show the world that God exists and God is controlling the world and God is the one that managed this entire universe, created and managed that. Give me your money now. Muhammad, don't let me wait. Muhammad, you don't want me to be angry. You don't want me to be upset. Do it fast, Muhammad. By the way, all the jewelry you ever bought for your wife, my wife really likes that. So do it and do it fast. But Rabbotai, instead of doing it this way, we had to go in a very manipulative way. We had to go as if we are borrowing it and as if the Egyptians are doing a favor to us. And this is how we get it. Why? Why not to go with power? Why not to go with force? Why not to go with pride? We worked long enough, hard enough. It's time for you to pay, Muhammad. The third point that comes from a Moroccan attitude is, or has to do with, the fact that the Torah said that when Am Yisrael left Egypt, when Am Yisrael, ויהי בחצי הלילה, והשם היכה כל בכור בארץ מצרים, and when Makat Bechorot arrived, Am Yisrael left Egypt in a Hebrew word called בחיפזון. כי גורשו ממצרים. מה זה בחיפזון? In a hurry way. In a very fast way. It sounds like they ran away. כי גורשו ממצרים. לא יכלו להתמהמה. עם ישראל left Egypt בחיפזון. They left Egypt fast. They were kicked out of Egypt. מוריי ורבותיי, I'm sorry to say that I'm trying to be bad today. But again, לכאורה, if I would write the script, I wish the script to sound like this. And Am Yisrael left dancing. Am Yisrael left on their own pace. I want to see a march of the Jews in Egypt with Abdul Wahab in the background, with Kulthum on the other side, and Am Yisrael are taking the oud and taking the violin, and they are living while dancing and singing on their own pace. I want Am Yisrael to look in the Egyptians to their eyes and tell them, goodbye, never again. We're living on our own pace. Why behipazon? Why fast? Why being kicked out? כי גורשו ממצרים וגם צידה לא עשו להם. Why this way? The last thing that I think we all have to mention, and if we want to get an understanding to the entire points we're making, has to do with the question that should bother everyone. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu, back in Parashat Lech Lecha, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu is speaking to Avraham Avinu and tell Avraham Avinu, ועבדום ועינו אותם 400 שנה, וגם את הגוי אשר יעבוד דן אנוכי ואחריכן יצאו ברכוש גדול, we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Avraham Avinu that Am Yisrael will serve in Egypt for 400 years, but relax. Avraham, don't worry about it. You know what's going to happen in the end? In the end, they will live millionaires. Every Jew will live with a Rolex. Every Jew will live with a Rolex. What is the message? What is the ne'ama that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling Avraham Avinu? That when Am Yisrael will live after 400 years of slavery, 400 years of being slaves in Egypt. Don't worry about the pain. Don't worry about the difficulties. Don't worry about all that. Do you know why? In the end, they will leave rich. Everyone will have a Rolex watch on their hand, on their wrist. And they will leave rich. What is the promise of Harichen Yesu Birchush Gadol? Or how is this promise can cover up and can be used as the words of Nehama to Avraham Avinu v'Harichen Yesu Birchush Gadol? So, Morai v'Rabotai, in order to understand that, I want to share an idea that I believe that is extremely, extremely relevant to us. It is extremely applied to our lives. And you will see how reading Parashat Bo, or as a matter of fact, reading any word in the Torah, reading any event that took place in the Torah, how relevant it is, how incredibly applicable it is to our lives. Sometimes we make an enormous mistake by reading Sefer Torah, by reading the Parashiot, and we think we are reading history. We think we are reading all kinds of past events that took place, and yeah, we'll be impressed by this one, we'll have difficulty with the other one. But Morai v'Rabotai, there is nothing in the Torah that has to do with nostalgia or history or past that we need to learn because something happened in the past. Every single word, every single letter in the Torah was written for us for now. And with this attitude, I'm going to try to share an idea that I believe has an enormous, enormous application to our lives. You know, there is this little story about this Bet HaKnesset that had Admor and Hasidim, that had the Rav, the rabbi of the community, you call it Admor, call it whatever it is. There was the rabbi and the followers, the Hasidim, the people in Bet HaKnesset. So the story is about one day, one Shabbat morning, the middle of Tefillat Shacharit. Unfortunately, as we know, there are some Bate Knesset that people find it very, very easy to talk, to speak during Tefillah. So there was like a group of people that starts talking, schmoozing during Tefillah. But what was different in this shul was that the rabbi also was talking. The rabbi also was schmoozing with somebody. Yeah, probably an important thing. I'm not judging anything. But there was a situation where people were schmoozing and talking, and the rabbi also was busy talking to somebody. One of the Hasidim, one of the people who were praying in this Bet HaKnesset, turned to one of his friends while they were schmoozing and talking and started to shush them and say, "Sheket! Shut! It's time for tefillah!" So one of the people that were shushed was very offended. He was offended because you have no right to tell me what to do, what not to do, whatever the philosophy was. So he got very, very upset about this guy. And when the rabbi saw that he's angry at him, he turned to him and he said, "Relax. He didn't mean to talk to you. He spoke to you, but he meant that I will hear it too. But he has no gut nor chutzpah to criticize and to rebuke the rabbi. So what he did was he screamed at you with a hope and a pray that I will hear it." In Hebrew we call it umedaber lahasidim vemitkaven larav. He's speaking to X with the hope that someone else will hear it. With this idea in mind, I would like to propose, I would like to suggest, and I would like to offer an explanation. Maybe this is what's truly going on in the parasha. Moray v'Rabotai, I want to say, and if it's true, Borei Olam will help me to say it, that it could very, very be that Moshe Rabbeinu never negotiated with Paro and nothing. When we read the story, Moshe Rabbeinu speaking to Paro, "Let us go, don't let us go, let us go, don't let us go, I'm going to give you this, I'm going to give you that." There was absolutely zero negotiation between Moshe and Paro. Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't care less about Paro. Moshe Rabbeinu is not trying to convince Paro of anything. He's not trying to force Paro for anything. He's not trying to make Paro and soften the heart of Paro to let us go. Moshe Rabbeinu, Rabotai, is carrying a negotiation, is carrying a conversation with Am Yisrael directly through Paro. Moshe Rabbeinu is having a conversation with Am Yisrael through Paro. He is not speaking to Paro. He's not trying to convince Paro of anything. All he does is he is negotiating leaving Egypt with Am Yisrael themselves. What does that mean? What it means is that it's quite scary, but it's true. When Moshe Rabbeinu wants to let Am Yisrael out, when Moshe Rabbeinu is fulfilling the mission, being the messenger of Borei Olam to take the Jews out of Egypt, Moshe Rabbeinu did not have a problem with Paro. Moshe Rabbeinu had a very big challenge with Am Yisrael themselves. Moshe Rabbeinu knew something we all experience in life. It's scary to say, but it's true. Moshe Rabbeinu knew that Am Yisrael are slaves in Egypt for 210 years. Am Yisrael are suffering in Egypt. Am Yisrael are having a very hard time in Egypt for 210 years. And Am Yisrael are suffering so much in Egypt to the extent that they become addicted to their pain. I don't want to say they started to love their pain, but it's definitely true to say that their pain became their comfort zone. And there is nothing that a person is fearing in life than having a change by breaking out of your comfort zone, even if your comfort zone is bad. Even if your comfort zone contains pain. I know it's a mind-boggling concept, but it is the fact of life with every single one of us. There are so many people, Rabbotai, so many people in this world that are having a very, very hard time in current status, in anything. There are people who got married believing that getting married is a great idea, is a joyful event. And as they make along the way every single mistake in life that creates their joy and happiness into a misery, that turns their life into a misery, turning the dream into a nightmare, and they know, they're well aware that everything they do does not serve their happiness. They know they're suffering in the relationship. They know that they are having a very hard time due to their own mistakes, but they are willing to do whatever it takes to adapt, to hug, to love their mistakes, even if it caused them pain, and they have a tremendous fear of making a change. Making a change. Do things differently. And it happens in every single domain in life. I don't know how many of you ever struggled with losing weight, or becoming healthier, or paying attention to health. We all know. It's not a rocket science to understand that when you eat unhealthy and you never move, health will not be your strength. We know it. And people are gaining weight, and people are becoming very obese. People become unflexible. People have a hard time. People go to doctors. They will suffer even though they know that they can change. If they will start to say no to a burekas, life will change. But people prefer to keep suffering and not get rid of concrete habits that we have in life. A change, a breaking out of a comfort zone. It's the biggest challenge of humanity. We understand that we don't like the current state. We all clear in our vision what would be the desire state that we are pursuing, what we want to feel. I don't like to make $1,000 a month. I want to make $10,000 a month. I want to make $1 million a month. I know what my comfort zone is. I know what my current state caused me pain, suffering, and a bad time. I know what my dream look like and what it can be. And you can kill me. I will not walk the steps from current state to a desire state because change is uncomfortable. Change is difficult. Change is fearful. Change is walking into the unknown. And if the known is painful, believe it or not, as painful as it sounds, many people in the world would prefer to remain in the pain and not take the steps necessary to make the change. Moray v'Rabotai, what I'm saying is not news to anybody, because we know that despite all the conversations that we learned about Aseret HaMakot and the slavery in Egypt and Shi'bud Mitzrayim, what percentage of Am Yisrael actually left Egypt? After Va'avadum ve'inu otam 400 shana, after Va'yavidu Mitzrayim et Bnei Yisrael befarech, after Va'imariru et hayem ba'avoda kasha bechomer u'bilvenim, pain, yet V'hamushim alu Bnei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim, 80% of the Jews refused to leave. They saw dam, tzfardea, kenim, arov, dever, shehin, barad, arbe. They saw. They don't want to leave. What are you talking about? You know what? You're suffering now. Mitzrayim is painful. I got it. But it's what I know. It's what I'm okay with. It's what I'm used to. I'm going to say it this way just to make the point strong. I would like to believe that if Moshe Rabbeinu would go to Paro and tell him, we are living forever, Moshe Rabbeinu would leave Egypt by himself. If Moshe Rabbeinu would come, because Moshe Rabbeinu is speaking to Paro to the ears of the Jews. Moshe Rabbeinu speaks to Paro and he said, Paro, we're leaving. If Am Yisrael would hear, we're leaving forever, we're leaving Egypt to where? To the unknown? No one would leave. Moshe Rabbeinu would have to leave by himself. So the first step Moshe Rabbeinu is teaching us in a change, in creating a change. Moshe Rabbeinu is teaching us that if you want to make a change, you need to do it in a slow moderation system. You have to take small measurements, one step at a time. If someone wants to drop 100 pounds, it sounds like climbing the Mount Everest. The mountain Everest. It sounds like an impossible job. I'm using it as an example, just for us to get it in an easier way. If somebody wants to drop 100 pounds, it sounds like an enormous task. I can't. 100 pounds will take forever. Impossible. I can't. Not for me. How about 3 pounds? Oh, that sounds easy. That sounds easier. So the first step Moshe Rabbeinu is telling Am Yisrael, he's speaking to Paro, derech shelosh et yamim. Moshe Rabbeinu could go to Paro and become Moroccan. If Paro was the issue, Moshe Rabbeinu could go to Paro and tell him, we're living for good, have a good life. But Paro was not the topic. Paro was not the issue. The issue was Am Yisrael. So Moshe Rabbeinu speak to the Hasidim, but he wants the Rabbi to hear. So he's telling Am Yisrael, we're living for 3 days. Assuming and believing that if they live for 3 days and they will smell and sense even the beginning of a spiritual experiences in serving a Kadosh Baruch Hu, if they only start the process, they will want to stay. They will want to continue. I hate to use the losing weight all the time, but it's something that I'm personally struggling with, and I'm sharing it because this is what I do. After you drop 3 pounds on the scale, it gives you motivation to continue. Le'avdil. It gives you motivation to continue when you see success. After Am Yisrael will leave Egypt for 3 days, and after 3 days they will start to be close to Borei Olam, and they will start to have some spiritual experiences and closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and will start to build a connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they will by default wish to continue. So that's the 3 days. And the second thing that we asked was, why did Am Yisrael had to borrow the money? Why did they have to borrow the money? Why they did not go to the Egyptians and demand the money with the intention to never pay it back? Why did they have to do it this way? For this, Rabotai, I want to tell you something that is a little difficult to say, but I'm open for any kind of disagreement on that. I'm happy for the challenge. I want to tell you that money has a very, very special power, has a very, very special energy, have a lot of profound trait to change people. Not only to change people, but even to put people in some kind of illusionary state. I will explain that. I don't know if you ever met people with real money. But there are people in this world, and if you pay close attention, you'll see it. There are people in this world that are blessed. HaKadosh Baruch Hu blessed them with a lot of money. They have all kinds of sources for the money, successful businesses, remarkable creative business people, or whatever other sources they have the money for. Sometimes, when you have a conversation with a rich person, if you are aware and very mindful, you can see that there are many, many rich people that have the belief that they are more important people than others. They believe that people respect them because of who they are and not because of their money. There are many people in the world that has a real money that they believe they're smarter than you. They believe that what they say should go. If you ever see it in any kinds of boards, my unfavorite concept in America, boards, school boards, synagogue boards, boards of directors, all kinds of meetings, if you ever had a chance to sit there. There are many people that believe that they should have a say and they should have power of a say about any topic. They have no clue what they're talking about, but because I know how to sell shoes, I will determine what kind of level of education Jewish people has to get. Why? Because I'm rich. And if I'm rich, you listen, money talks. Now, I want to make sure that I'm very clear that there are many, many people that are blessed with money, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu bless them, and they are serving the world in an enormous way of charity, kindness. God bless them. Borei Olam should bless them. There are people, but I want to tell you personally that I know many people like that. I have a sense of jealousy to see that they have such power to donate for charity, for tzedakah, for hesed, for Torah, for yeshivot, for Talmudei Torah. Ashreim ve'ashrei chelkeim ve'ashrei yoledatehem. Ashrei, fortunate are the mothers that gave birth to these people. They're taking their blessings and they're using it. They're using it in the right way. They understand that they are nothing but a channel of distribution to take what the Kadosh Baruch Hu blessed them with and give it over to real great causes. I'm not talking about those people. I'm not talking about those people. Those people, Ashre'im ve'ashrei chelkam, that open their hearts. Some people I know that their kind heart is bigger than their entire being. And they're giving and giving and giving, Ashre'im. I'm talking about those people that understand that money can give a person the illusion of importance and a personal importance. I am more important than you because I have money. Money has this power. Do not underestimate it. Don't fight nature. Money has this power. A lot of times when we try to speak about this guy, that guy who has money, why is he doing? We only speak because we don't have that kind of money. But I can guarantee every single one of us, if we think we know who we are, it's great in our current state. If I will put $1 billion, or forget about $1 billion, $100 million in your bank account, you will change. You will change. Money changes people. There's no question about it. People say that money doesn't change. Money just discovered what you were before and you couldn't practice and it just helped you to manifest it. Different conversation, not for now. But money and security and status gives a person pride and dignity and a sense of importance, a sense of value. And it comes with danger. Because it is very, very easy to have this kind of money and become the slave of this money. And instead of you have money, the money has you. Instead of I have money, the money has me, meaning to say money can control us versus us controlling money. And that's the difference between a kind person and not. But moreover, Rabbotai, here is the deal. Kadosh Baruch Hu comes to Avraham Avinu and tells him, Am Israel will be slaves in Egypt for 400 years. We need to understand that 400 years of the promise or 210 years of the actual time, being slaves, being slavery in Egypt, it's not a matter of time that we serve. After 210 years, our core DNA became slaves. We became slaves. Slaves by definition, by the core DNA. And Avraham Avinu had the concern that even if after 210 years or 400 years you let the Jews out, it will be too late. Because the people that will leave Egypt, they will leave Egypt, but the question is what can be done that Egypt will leave them? What would be the method for them to go back to their dignity? To go back to their identity, to go back on their pride. Said HaKadosh Baruch Hu, "V'acharichen yetz'u b'rechush gadol," I will make every single one of them rich. So they will disconnect, and it's amazing to see how fast, how rapidly it takes for a person to move from poor to rich. If you take somebody who is 50 years of poorness and you give him the $100 million, it takes him less than 24 hours to feel he was born rich. Said HaKadosh Baruch Hu, "V'acharechen yetzu b'rechush gadol." Through the money, I will take them out of slavery, out of their inner DNA of slaves, into their pride of Jews. But guess what? I'm not going to do it by giving them the money. Because if I will give them the money, they might start to be slaves of the money. They will just channel. They will just start to exchange slavery to paro, to slavery the money, and a slavery is a slavery. Said HaKadosh Baruch Hu, "Daberna be'oznei ha'am, ve'ish'alu ish me'et ra'eu," ish'alu, borrow it. Because when you borrow, even if you have the money, it's not fully yours. Even when you borrow, even if only conceptually you are asking it to borrow, you will never become slave to it because you know it's not yours. And the third point was that HaKadosh Baruch Hu asked Am Yisrael b'chipazon. Said Moshe Rabbeinu, and this is the method HaKadosh Baruch Hu is teaching us. Moray v'Rabotai, with this we will finish for today. There is no bigger fear in a human being than a fear of a change, to make a change. I am deep into an avera. I'm deep into a bad habit. I am deep into an exercise that doesn't serve my life. I'm deep into an addiction. I am deep into pain. I'm deep into impurity. Get out of it in small steps, but get out of it fast. The actual moment of the change has to be fast, very fast. If anybody ever wants to get out of any comfort zone that doesn't serve him and say, you know, one day I will change my diet, when circumstances will allow it. You know, I really want to go to Bet HaKnesset and be close to Borei Olam, but I'm so busy now. When I will be 70, I will retire. And when I will retire, I will buy a house in Aventura in Florida. And I will go to shul every Monday and Thursday, Sefer Torah. When circumstances will allow, I will play along. I will make the change later. Said Moshe Rabbeinu to Am Yisrael, you want to get out of slavery. You want to get out of the shi'bud that you are worshiping now. You want to get out of it. Get out of it now and fast and stop thinking and planning. The measurements has to be slow. The measurement to your geula has to be slow. Do not change your entire life overnight. It won't last. Do the steps in a healthy way. Trick your own self and do it slowly. Do the process in a slow measurements, but do it fast. Do it fast means do it. Just do it. Make a decision now. Because we all know, if we postpone, if we delay the change we are all seeking to have in life, nothing will ever happen, nor that whoever promised us the future. Who can guarantee us tomorrow? Who can guarantee us next week, next month, next year? ואם לא עכשיו, אם אין אני לי, מי לי? ואם לא עכשיו, אימתי? And if you're not doing it now, it will never happen. That's Rabbotai could be that relaxes the Moroccan mode. The conversation was not about teaching Paro a lesson. The conversation was about teaching us the lesson. So teaching us the lesson, you don't go by force. You go by proper, effective steps that can create a change. And if there is any current state that you're struggling with, and you reach the point that you are in love with your pain, because the payoff is so great, and instead of taking the violin out and play with tears on how depressed you are, make a decision now. Make a decision now. I'm gonna work on it now. I'm gonna take small steps in achieving it, but the decision has to be behipazon. If you don't live behipazon and negative circumstances, you will never live them. And that is maybe a relevant point we learn from Parashat Bo, when Moshe Rabbeinu is speaking to Am Yisrael and teaching them, how do you take a human being from slavery to redemption, from shi'bud le ge'ula? The ge'ula is in your hands. If you learn how to identify the shi'bud, finding the ge'ula, have the vision for the ge'ula, make a plan and act fast in a slow way, and understand that taking your slavery and replace it with another slavery, it's never the solution. Taking the slavery of Egypt and replace it with slavery to money, it's not a way to redemption. The way to redemption is get rid of slavery and be a free human being to serve Borei Olam with a complete freedom to our spiritual connection. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu Rabbotai will give us the zechut, כי מצאתך מארץ מצרים, הראינו נפלאות, such as HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed the ניסים ונפלאות to Am Yisrael במצרים, and he took them משעבוד לגאולה. Borei Olam will give us the zechut, every single one of us, in every single kind of slavery we have in our lives, and He will allow us, Be'ezrat Hashem, to get out of this avdut, of this shi'bud, in a proper measurements, in a proper steps, into the ultimate personal, and Am Yisrael is a complete ge'ula shelema, Be'ezrat Hashem, bekarov. Thank you.